I've lost my beer already. We haven't even started the show.
I think you brought one.
I think I left it in the studio.
Beer's gone. All right. Not to worry.
Hold that thought. I'm going to get my beer.
Okay. G'day guys, welcome to the Purple Fringe. This is episode 9, Chris. We're nearly there to the Big 10.
Yeah, we are nearly to the Big 10. What happens at the Big 10? We just don't know.
Don't know. But anyway, this is the Purple Fringe, the show that talks about the high end of low-end digital media production.
Indeed.
And, today we've got quite a bit to get through, so let's get right to it, Chris.
Let's get rolling. There's a whole load happening. GoPro, everybody's favourite.
Drink.
Is that an offence? I didn't say immersive or 3D.
No,
GoPro's an offensive word too.
Or action camera is the alternative. We're into the drink already.
All right.
So their Karma drone has been delayed until the 2016 holiday season.
Yep. So this basically means that for the holiday season, in inverted commas, is
Christmas.
I suppose at Christmas time, and they're saying, what an ideal time to release it. In other words, they want people to be on the ski slopes, having drones follow them down.
In other words, we couldn't get
slope.
the drone out, and this is our excuse.
Look, we don't know what's happening, really. This is a little bit disappointing for GoPro because they've had such a good portfolio of good products, one after the other. You know, their GoPro 4 was almost their pinnacle, really, you know, and yet, but then the 3... the 3 introduced HD, full HD and things like that. We had 4K, you know, come out. It was just such a good progression, but everybody else has caught up.
Yep.
And the problem is now, especially with DJI, they're just so far ahead of the game.
Yeah, they've just released their new drone, the Phantom 4, as well as a big heavy lifter drone. So, yeah, it's going to have to be something pretty special for GoPro to catch up at this stage, especially if they're going to release it, you know, in 6 months' time. Yeah,
DJI have done clever things as well. They've got additional cameras in their drone, as far as I understand, that look straight down and do things like photo map, like difference mapping, so they can see where they are on the ground and what they're going to collide with. They've got like collision detection. So you can basically say, I want, you know, with the drone, I want it to fly from here to here, draw it as if it's a spline curve in a 3D program and press go, and it'll just go and get the shot. That's really clever. And not only does it use GPS, but it also uses its own protection to not hit people or hit things. And it has no exclude zones or exclusion zones for airports and for heights and for safeties. It knows where public facilities are and things. So
you can't fly into the White House as they did not that long ago because they've updated it and knows where it is via GPS now. I think the only thing that GoPro possibly will have compared with DJI, and there's lots of other drone companies out there, is maybe price, because the DJI product's not super expensive, but also not super cheap. So maybe GoPro can compete on price, but based on their action cameras, I'm not sure that's really their strongest game, because GoPros they're expensive for what you get really these days compared with the competition that's out there. So yeah, unless they've got some incredible technology we don't know about, they do have price. There is a bit of a window there in terms of the market, in terms of the maybe close to sub $1,000 drone, if it's any good, but it hasn't been their strong suit in the past.
Well, maybe they'll combine it with some immersive video.
Goody.
That's a drinking offence.
Can't wait. Okay, next up, Canon announces a new top-of-the-line speedlight and also a new EOS M lens. It's a macro lens. So let's start with the flash, which makes me depressed because I have plenty of what was, until very recently, previous top-of-the-line flash, which was the 600EX. So they've got a new version out. It is pretty quick to replace the old model, but I'm not too depressed because it's not a massive difference. They have boosted the recycle times, so basically what that means is it will flash faster. So up to 2 times. The 2 times comes with a bit of an asterisk, and that's if you're using their custom battery pack, which is basically 8 AA's in a box, from what I can tell. Otherwise, it'd be 1.1 to 1.5 times faster than the existing flash. I have never really found the recycling times to be a big issue.
Occasionally it does. If you're doing a rapid fire, it's... Yeah.
Look, if you're shooting with fast glass, you're not firing the flash at full bore anyway. In fact, I'm often firing it at its lowest point, so it's not a big issue for me, but for some people, I'm sure it is. For
anybody out there who's not totally familiar with flashes as well, you've got to be quite careful with the flash head running it at full. You really do shorten the length of your flash the harder you run it. And
the batteries as well.
Well, the battery's another thing, but I mean, if you kill a flash head's not cheap to replace. So, running it at full chat the whole time, people are like, I'm going to go a lower ISO and just bang my flash at full. And it's, no, I wouldn't be doing that.
Crank the ISO a little bit.
Crank the ISO, save your flash, because, you're almost exponential. So you'll lose like 4 times or 8 times the length of your flash for each time you double or double and a half your flash amount. So.
Nothing worse than the batteries running out right at the wrong time. So, Look,
they don't run out. They just get slow. It just starts getting slower and you start realizing, I'm not getting shots.
Well, eventually you run out, though.
Oh, yeah. You'd notice long before you run out. Yeah. But fingers crossed with this new battery pack as well. A lot more capacity in it. So.
Yeah, the new battery pack's the CP-E4N. I'm not huge on battery packs, but I know a lot of people that are for flashes. I generally do off-camera on light stands and that sort of thing, so it's not a big deal for me. They're not all that much different physically. They're about the same size, not any lighter. Sorry about that, Chris. So you'll have to be carrying around the same weight. I'll be interested to see if it does break compatibility with some of the third-party products that are out there. There are a couple of third-party flashes that are compatible with the current generation 600EX RT flashes, and they cost less than half. So I'll be interested to see if it somehow breaks the wireless protocols, I suppose.
So that it only works with Canon transmitters.
Yeah.
You would think they'd keep it compatible.
I hope so. Because sometime in the future I'll probably buy a couple of those. But apart from that, not a whole lot has changed. A little bit new in the interface on the back of the flash. Actually, now that I think about it, that's probably not a bad thing because the interface wasn't that intuitive. Even now, sometimes I have to sit down and really think about what I'm doing in order to change certain settings on the flash. So anything that makes that a little bit easier is definitely a good thing. But apart from that, not too much to report, really.
Brilliant.
The other thing that was in the same sort of announcement was a new EOS M flash. So flash lens. EOS M is Canon's mirrorless camera line, which hasn't exactly caught the world on fire. I own one of them, but I own one of them because it was cheap. And I don't use it that often because it doesn't have an EVF. But the new ones do, and this looks like an interesting lens. It's a macro lens. It's a 28mm, which is pretty wide for a macro. Now, you got to factor in the fact that it is on a crop body sensor, so it's a 1.6 crop. So it's roughly around the 45mm, but even that's pretty wide for a macro.
This is good. I mean, it has a few killer things into it that if you're thinking about someone who likes to take photos of small things, let's say a coin or a ring or something that's, that you want
of some description.
An insect of some description. You really want to get down to that macro level. There's this trick where you can take a standard lens and you can actually flip it in reverse. So you're actually shooting with the back of the lens and you attach the front of the lens to where, the barrel of your camera mount is. And a lot of this is effectively, it has that built into it. But it has LED. The problem is getting the light in from either side. So it's okay if it's a bright day, but you'll typically be casting a shadow, which is then underexposed or is in exposure, and then you've got this ring that's just kind of, just blowing right out. And if you're at night and you're trying to get light in, you've got down light and you can't actually get light into the shot without bringing LEDs in. So this has LEDs built into the rim of the light on either side. Great idea. The good shape. It's almost a full ring,
So
it's stabilized as well. That's the biggest thing, when you're trying to hold it still and get your shot. So this is really designed for people who want to get a shot of something super small and just put the camera there and hit the button.
Yep. So for those who haven't shot macro before, depth of field is a big issue. This is an f3.5 lens, which is reasonably fast, but you'll quickly discover that shooting at the widest part of the lens with macro stuff makes things more difficult for you. So generally you're stopping down. As Chris said, when you stop down, of course, you lose light, and this brings back some of that light. And it's not going to be a high output thing, but since you are so close, it'll be enough. And the other thing is it's a ring light, so you're going to get light all around the subject. So you could set up a flash or some other light, but then you're still going to get a very directional sort of light because remember, this is a very small subject you're shooting. So the ring light going around the actual lens itself ensures that it's going to be lit from every angle, and hopefully that will create a more flattering profile on your subject.
This is a bit of a revolutionary lens in my opinion. It's a pretty cool idea to have all of that in one lens. And at the right price, I think it's going to open up a whole new set of opportunities for anyone who wants to take shots of things that are small.
Yeah. definitely. Next up on the list, a bit of a small thing, but interesting nevertheless, that is Adobe is reducing their Creative Cloud trial down to 7 days. So it was 30, now it's going to be 7.
14 just makes much more sense. I don't know why they've gone to 7. I mean, I understand people every 30 days who are just re-imaging their machine.
Yes, I met a young lass the other day who said she just signs up for a new email account and downloads it all again. But I maybe a lot of people are doing that. People
don't understand that you can't produce commercial work with a demo. Like, it's just not, it's not what you do. Yeah. That's illegal. It doesn't matter if it's a demo. Like, if you're refreshing your demo every 30 days, it's like, you may as well get a pirated version and use that. It's the same terms and conditions. You can't be producing professional output with a demo. It's a trial thing. And when you commit to it, as far as I know, as far as I understand anyway, that's when you can release commercial work. Is that right, or am I wrong there?
That's been the traditional way of doing things, and I think it still stands. I haven't read the terms and conditions for a long time, but look, 7 is pushing it. I think 14 might have been a better compromise. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about, because I've experienced this, is when the subscription screws up with Adobe.
Yeah, and when you go bush and you got no internet, and then you're fucked.
Yeah. So, look, I have found that sometimes, it seems to be very hit and miss. Sometimes the subscription doesn't care. In fact, I accidentally went 3 months without renewing the subscription and nothing happened. I didn't realize until 3 months after. But other times it's been bugging me to say, you've got to sign up for this Creative Cloud plan. And I'm like, well, I'm already subscribed to that. So, yeah, look, in those times where you don't have internet connectivity or Adobe servers are having issues, which they do, I'd like a few extra days up my sleeve just in case.
Yeah, I'm not cool with 7. 14, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And also for students as well who are just using the tools very sparingly, 7 days isn't a lot to get up and running. You can't learn much in 7 days. So it'd be good if they had a little bit more. And also if their education pricing was a bit cheaper.
Yeah. I think, some of the companies in the past have had really good educational prices, 3D Max and things like that.
Yeah. The guys doing it behind 3D Max, Autodesk, their stuff is free, like all their stuff, and they own buttloads of different applications. And if you are a student, you can sign up with your .edu email and you can get all that for free. And that's the way to go, really, because then all the students are in there, they're using it, they will be pushing their bosses when they move into the real world and get a job to use that stuff because they're familiar with it, they're happy with it, they like it because they were exposed to it and they didn't have any negative experiences with pricing and subscription and all that sort of stuff.
I would love to see a $5 per month, or even something like $100 a month, $100 a year subscription for students, where you just get it flat for $100 and leave it at that.
Yeah,
Australian, so that'd be like 75 American.
Yeah. So the other thing that's interesting is there's starting to be a few competitors to Photoshop that are out there. So, in the past, it's been Photoshop or nothing, but there are a couple of really interesting applications out there, Pixelmator, and I forget the name of the other company, but there's another competitor that's out there that's looking pretty good. So Adobe probably need to watch themselves, which is a good thing because up until now, apart from the video world where they've got
No, but DaVinci.
The video world, they've got competition. Photoshop, Illustrator, not so much. So, and also their motion graphics, you sort of go to Nuke After Effects. There's not that much apart from Apple's Motion, which I mentioned the other week, doesn't really do that much in the marketplace. They don't have that much competition, so anything that can push Adobe, I think, is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Next up, this is a little bit different. It's not gear or anything like that or software. This is Amazon and their new video service. So basically, they've got what many people have claimed is a YouTube competitor, but it isn't really. It's a service that allows you to monetize your content, much like I guess YouTube does, but it's a little bit different. It's aimed more at the professional market, and they've come up with some interesting ways to sort of separate the professional market from your everyday mum and dad who are uploading cat videos. So look, the idea is that you can publish a video and people can pay for it, or you can get revenue from ads or other methods. The differentiator between the mum and dad uploading a cat video versus the professional people is closed captioning, which I think is an interesting one. Because
mandatory closed captioning?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, look, it's something that normal people aren't going to do. and also Amazon can claim it's for the greater good. So I think it's a win-win from that perspective. Amazon's already got a great cloud backbone. One of the biggest things, of course, with hosting an online video site is the infrastructure behind it, and YouTube's obviously got that sorted out. I think they're processing, 400 hours of video per minute at the moment, so that's pretty incredible. Amazon also have a pretty amazing cloud presence with their S3 service, and they have the ability to spin up CPU cycles and all that sort of stuff. So they've obviously got enough grunt to throw at this thing. And also because they're targeting more at professional content, they're probably not going to have to deal with anywhere near the volume that YouTube does. So look, I think the closed captioning is a really nice differentiator between normal people and professionals. And the only other thing that was a bit different in terms of the sign-up process is it's definitely more business focused. So I actually signed up just to see what it was all about, and there's a lot of questions about tax and imports and all this sort of stuff, and there's even stuff about free trade agreements between Australia and America and how that will be taxed and all this sort of stuff. So it's a lot more daunting, confrontational, I suppose, than your standard YouTube thing where you sort of sign up and then if you want to monetize, you do that later, and even that's not that daunting. This is very sort of business language sign-up stuff. You're handing over your tax file numbers and this sort of thing. So it's definitely a different experience to what you'd have with YouTube.
Did you fake it or give them your real details?
I actually gave them my real details because one day, not right now, but one day I might want to use the service. And
fair enough.
I put in the real details.
Just on the front of Amazon as well, they already bought Twitch, which is a game streaming / live program service.
Yes.
That was a couple of years ago, so they already sort of have a bit of an insight and a presence there already. And I mean, Twitch has already got quite a clever revenue system attached to it and some automated things for announcing when people have donated and the way it runs. So maybe they're trying to just, introduce some new services around there that are less game orientated. But, if gamers can put up with it and like it, anyone can deal with it because they're the first people to complain. So
Yeah. All right, next up.
Sorry, gamers out there. Not all of you, just some of you are vocal.
LG introduces a live streaming active lifestyle camera with LTE built in. So this is an action cam, Chris. Drink.
Yep. Hang on. At least it's not an immersive action cam, otherwise we'd be sculling.
Yep.
Okay, Korean electronics manufacturer, of course, been around for a number of years now. I mean, LG
made my very lovely TV OLED.
Probably make the next TV I'll buy too. Yeah. They're doing some pretty good out there stuff, and this is You strap it to your head, and not only does it record on an SD card.
It's not mandatory, though, Chris.
Oh, you don't have to strap it on your head. No. You can strap it wherever you want.
Yeah.
And it sends to wherever you want it to send to. So,
yep.
But the good thing is it records on an up to 2 terabyte, in inverted commas,
really?
SD card.
I didn't see that bit.
Yeah, up to 2 terabytes. So this is a fair bit.
That's a lot of lifestyle.
It's a lot of lifestyle. And it'll also stream it, straight from the phone to a telephone network or a mobile or a cell. 2 terabytes worth of data on the fly, which is quite a lot.
Yes.
So this is great because, you can, especially for people who want to capture a live moment and stream it at the same time, think about the smaller, something like go-kart racing or someone doing something, same way you just strap a camera on and off you'd go. You can now do that, and even if it was a family trip or something like that, you could just have a little box that you hit and you pass around and, connect to something and, people can watch it.
Yep, I personally can't see it, but I'm sure there is.
Look, why wouldn't you have your mobile phone just to do that with a streaming program, I guess, with the camera facing forward? You would do that for some stuff, but, for specific action cam style, it is... Is it stabilized as well? I don't know if it has active stabilization in it.
No, I'm not sure.
I can't see.
It is quite deep in terms of the form factor. It's a lot deeper than a
GoPro. It's more like the Contour sort of things. Yeah. It's sort of a long, like the Lytra cameras. So like a sort of little mini microphone kind of.
Sony's action cameras were a bit like that for a while.
Yeah, this one's very square though. It's sort of like it's square form factor, but barrel.
Extruded, yeah. So, look, in terms of the tech specs, ultra high definition at 30 frames a second, 12.3 megapixel photos, 120 frames per second in HD. Those specs seem to be sort of the go-to specs for lower end ultra HD cameras these days. Waterproof for half an hour at 1 meter depth.
Will it transmit?
Will it transmit 3G or LTE at that depth? We're not sure.
No, it won't.
It won't? Okay.
That's that's just using every bit of...
Good to know.
Transmitter. Yeah, you get a little bit of coverage of rain on a bit of a sheet over the top of your tent and your radio stops working. So anyway.
Shipping first in South Korea before rollout elsewhere. It does have built-in Wi-Fi, so you could actually use this more as a home security sort of time-lapse camera. I think the Wi-Fi makes more sense than the 3G or LTE personally. I'm not sure how often, unless you had some massive data plan, I'm not sure how often you're going to be streaming via LTE. But hey, it's an interesting thing. It reminds me, I forget the name of it, and I'm kicking myself now. There was this camera I saw the other day. It was the most niche camera I'd ever seen. It was this very friendly looking thing. It almost looked like a frog. It had 2 lenses, so it was a 3D camera that would stream live. So the examples were a child's birthday party, and the way they suggested that you'd see it would be via a VR headset. So they had grandma put on a VR headset to view the child's birthday.
I'm already drinking it ahead. There's so many drinking offences in that sentence.
Nichiest camera I've ever seen in my life. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, look, this thing looks like it'll be good. I mean, but what are you going to use it for? I mean, there's only a handful of things. Like, it's going to be something like, look, my love, I'm about to go down the skiing fields. And then you turn it on and you go for a ski and hopefully don't fall over. And then what do you do at the bottom? Like, turn it around. There we go.
Yeah. That was
but
great.
it's not two-way. It's only one way. Or, I mean, for things like, honestly, things like demonstrations and where you're getting live feeds from things that are unfolding, and even news story people who want to, honestly, clip it to your camera as a journalist when something's unfolding and just keep your camera sort of pointing forwards or whatever. It would be an interesting feed potentially, but something where you're strapped to your head.
I'm not sure I need to see motocross live. I can see it after the fact and still be impressed.
It's a cut. And this whole thing of just television that's broadcast live, from a webcam sort of situation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the only thing I can think of is I have followed certain situations where people have had live phones going, and it's been interesting to watch. But
that's a live phone. Why do you need a live action cam?
Apart from the shot that they're marketing it with, which is someone going down a sand dune. Yeah, I don't know how much LTE on a
and for the
camera's
news stuff, sometimes it's important. But I met a guy who used to be a producer at Channel 9 the other day, and he basically said to me, "I can't believe the shit they put out on commercial networks these days." So I don't know. I think we go back to the quality, not quantity thing. We don't need live stuff just for the sake of it being live. Yeah. I'd rather it be distilled and
half an hour old or an hour old.
Yeah, exactly. You can cut stuff pretty quickly these days if you're keen. So, anyway, interesting, but probably not anything that's going to win them much market share back from GoPro. Drink.
It's GoPro.
Anyway, so next up, YouTube Red, which sounds a bit strange as a name, I think. But anyway, it's available in Australia and New Zealand now. So,
what is YouTube Red? I haven't actually read about this yet.
Oh, okay. So YouTube Red, we're the first, well, us and our partners across the ocean in terms of New Zealand, we're the first to get it outside the US. YouTube Red, the reason it's on here, it might seem a little bit weird at first because we're talking about media production and YouTube's more often a consumption thing. But YouTube Red is a way for you as a subscriber or as a user of YouTube to view the content without ads. Okay, so you can pay a fee every month and you get all the content from YouTube without ads. You have the ability
to get that already?
Well, yes. You can,
I remember the last ad I saw.
You can officially do it and you can also download it. Yes, again, you can officially download it as opposed to, yes, so that's all good. That alone probably isn't enough. The other thing you do get is this new YouTube music thing, which is basically sort of like an algorithmically generated radio station of music videos. So, okay, that's nice, but okay. And finally, and this is the thing that I think makes it potentially for some people worth the money, you get Google Play, which is their competitor to Spotify and Apple Music and all those guys. So I would actually kind of think of it in that respect, if you want to sign up for a subscription music service like Spotify, this is Google's version, has 35 million tracks, all the same sort of stats as all of the major players. And then as a bonus, you don't have advertising on all your YouTube stuff, and you can download stuff for offline viewing and all that sort of thing.
Cool. All right. Was it $2 a month?
No. A bit more than that.
$5 a month.
So it's similar to the other subscription services that are out there. So it's $12 a month. Look, I'm an Apple Music subscriber. I pay the $12 a month. I use Apple Music every single day. So, look, I get my money's worth. It's $10 if you sign up before June 6th in this country. Look, I think it's interesting. The reason that it's on here in terms of production is that it's just another way that content producers will get paid. And it's a very indirect way.
Yeah.
But it means that you're not necessarily relying on ads. There are people that are happy to pay some money, and as a YouTube content producer, you get some money like as if it was advertising, but it's coming through someone's subscription payment. Just to wrap up, the other thing you do get, which I don't think is all that exciting at this point, is YouTube Originals, which is kind of like Netflix Originals, I suppose, except you get PewDiePie and all those YouTube stars, which I'm not too fazed by. But look, it's interesting, and maybe in a few years it could be something a lot bigger than it is now. I think there are a few people at least that are happy just to pay some money and get some music and get rid of the ads, because the ads are getting a bit more intrusive on YouTube these days. We monetize our videos here at the Purple Fringe, and that's our way of getting a few dollars.
Do we?
We do. It pays for the beer, Chris.
There we go. Yes. Oh, you mean we will in the future once we start putting videos up?
Yeah, well, yes.
Okay, and we haven't, at this point, let's just roll back. I mean, you might be listening to this in the future, but we haven't yet put ads on.
There will be very, very soon.
But that's fair enough, because it does take a little bit of money to review beers and buy beer. So we've probably spent a couple of $100 on beer on this show.
I know.
Far out.
It's worthwhile.
Monetize. Quick.
Worthwhile investment. So look, that's YouTube Red.
Yeah.
Don't know if I'll sign up for it, because as I said, I already pay for Apple Music. I'm happy enough with it. Yeah. But if I didn't have that sort of subscription service, I might be tempted.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. So that brings us to the end of the news this week, Chris. Yeah. Now, we have a topic that you've been dealing with quite a bit in the last
24 hours, yeah. The last, right before the show.
So this is the concept of stock.
So let's talk about why you would need stock.
Well, if you're making a soup, often you want some stock.
Super comment, John. Oh, damn.
That was pretty terrible. I apologise.
That's a double drink offence. Yeah. Look, stock, you always want to avoid it, but sometimes it's inevitable that you just can't get a shot.
Or you can't be asked.
Well, it's not often that you can't be asked. Either you gave it a go or you just can't get the shot because a time of day or location, or just, it was a flying shot over the city or something like that.
Stock, let's back up a little bit.
Okay, stock.
For those that aren't familiar, is material that's out there and it's available for people to use, and it's sort of like generic stuff that's already been shot, and you can take that and put it into your own material, and generally you pay something for it, and it's sort of a generic shot or a generic sound effect or a piece of music or a vector graphic or whatever it may be. There are lots of different types of stock.
Yeah. And it's typically, as a filmmaker or corporate shooter or video, or whoever you are, you drive yourself to try to capture the entire story when you shoot it. I mean, that's part of, sometimes the funnest shots and the best shots that you shoot are the incidentals that fit in between, or establishing shots and things like that. Sometimes it is a dirty, rainy day and you just cannot capture the shot, or it changes, the story changes, and you suddenly need a shot of a field, driving past a view of fields. You have a kid looking out of a window from a car that the director decided, I'd like to put this in. And it's like, well, we need to suddenly show what the kid's seeing from their point of view. And you just need the ability to be able to experiment, with different shots, and you can't just go and shoot everything. Sometimes there's shots you don't plan for and you need them.
Yep. And look, there's other reasons. Like, I'm completely inept when it comes to music. Chris is very musical. I am not. So stock music is something that I regularly seek out. And look, there are other reasons as well. Sometimes you just don't have the budget. So a client wants something that looks gee whiz, but they have $1,000 to spend. How do you do it? Well, stock might be the answer.
But it also might not be, because as we will talk about, you'd get maybe 2 shots for that if you're lucky with some services.
Yeah.
But this is the discussion we're going to have. You've got a missing shot, you've got a missing sound effect, you've got a missing piece of music. What options are out there? Why do some cost $99 for an entire year of unlimited use? And why do some cost $500 per shot? And what are you likely to find, for $400 a shot versus $99 for a year subscription?
So we've got two services that we want to chat about today before we get back to some of the more overarching themes of stock. These are both services that we've used, that we've paid for out of our own money. They're not subscribers or anything like that. They
just happen to be the ones that we've settled on. You'll find that people will have a stock library they go to, or a couple of stock libraries.
Yeah. So the two we're choosing today are VideoBlocks, which is something Chris has been using, and Digital Juice, which is something I've been using. So
these are two go-tos, I guess, it's libraries for a reason. And then I've also used Shutterstock, Dreamtime, and iStock. We'll talk about those.
Yes, there are lots of other ones as well. But these are the ones we want to chat about specifically, and I think they'll be a jumping off point for other services that are out there.
Absolutely. And probably relevant to a lot of our listeners who might be in a pickle and need a shot of something, and where do I get it from? Yeah.
So let's start with VideoBlocks. So this is something you've been using, Chris, for a little while.
And I got it purely because it was $150 for a year subscription, and there was at least 4 shots I needed for a job on there. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sign up. Yeah. And for that $150, that's going to just save. It's just going to make my life a lot easier.
They do advertise quite heavily. I was very close to signing up for the service. I didn't in the end, but they chased me around the web. They often give deals, which I think they always have deals. I don't think you ever pay full retail, so to speak. But look, they're a budget service, and they have good points and bad points. So what are their good points, I guess, Chris, to start with?
Well, I guess that you can easily just say to a client, well, look, these are the shots that I want, that we're looking at, and you can send them a whole load of links and they can click on them without signing up for anything. They'll just be able to see them instantly and say, oh, I like this one or this one or this one or this one. It's good. The problem they have is they advertised themselves originally as a big, massive compile of stuff that a lot of, I guess, freelancers could just put their spare shots in. There's a lot of them that look a bit holiday shot-ish. They're just not super high quality, or it's like someone's shot a whole load of stuff and then it's all their B-roll. It's all their second kind of shots, secondary versions and takes they put up there. It's not all that high quality, and some of it doesn't have, it's not super sharp. Most of it is HD, but it's not always full HD. Sometimes, you can tell it's sort of been blown up.
But taking a step back, you're talking about shots. Is it just video that they offer, or do they offer other things?
They also offer things like After Effects projects for doing simple things like photo reveals and push-ins, and things like wedding introductions, or maybe they have something like epic title sequences if you need to do a quick showpiece for an epic title. Generally, you'd go back and do it yourself, but sometimes you can use their templates as a stock, change the fonts around, change the backgrounds around, combine things, and look, instead of having to spend 3 days putting together stuff with an animator and yourself and you just sort of get it already in place, and it's part of your subscription, so you're not paying for it. But it's just the quality, and the problem is they've got all this stuff that also goes alongside their unpaid content, which is paid, and you can choose to view content that comes for free as part of your subscription, but as soon as you click on something, it shows you alternatives that are paid,
good stuff.
And typically the paid content is good. And you're looking at it going, I wish I had this shot instead of this one. And then it's $30 or $40 a shot. Now, that's not a lot of money, but still.
Just going back many years, probably 15 odd years. Do you remember a company called Artbeats, Chris?
I do remember Artbeats. They actually go back even further. Yeah. They used to release, I was doing a clear out with a friend's business recently, and we found boxes of digital Betacam tapes with just back-to-back shots from Artbeats.
Yeah, look, Artbeats were a company that were probably one of the earlier companies that did this sort of stuff, and they did really good quality stuff, but you paid for it. You were paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a set of footage, and they'd break it up into, they were renowned for their pyrotechnics and stuff like that. If you wanted an explosion.
So good. Still good.
If you watch The Matrix, you'll see Artbeats stuff in there. But they were quite pricey, whereas VideoBlocks is sort of going for the cheap and cheerful.
But if you need a shot of an African village of people being unbanked or without communication or something like that, and you've just got a throwaway comment in a corporate or in a documentary, or you need to go somewhere where you're just not going to be able to go, you can get those images And that's the main thing, But
So-
they're not going to be brilliant.
How does VideoBlocks work? Is it just purely a website? Do they have an app? Do they have any
No,
other
it's
services?
just
a website?
I don't know. I've just used a website.
Just a
and look,
website.
it works for me. I can type in with my keywords, I need a shot of this. Do we have it on VideoBlocks as a placeholder, or is it going to work? Yeah, it might work. Cool. Maybe there's something you have to pay for that's watermarked. But you can still download the watermarked versions, put them in there and just tell your client it's like $30-$40 a shot.
Right. And have you found the download speeds?
Oh, look, I don't have a very fast internet connection. It's been
So
fine.
it's saturated that. Yes, as we experienced earlier today.
Let's not talk about internet.
All right. So, look, I've been using Digital Juice. Now,
They've been around for a while,
they
Digital
have
Juice.
been, yeah. Look, I don't know if they're as old as Artbeats, but I remember back when I was a teenager looking at the Digital Juice stuff and going, oh, that looks really cool. So Digital Juice originally did a lot of sort of animated stuff, motion backgrounds. I think they're called jump backs.
Yeah, I remember the jump backs.
The jump backs, and you'd buy them on CD and later DVD, and they'd ship them out to you. And I bought a few of them on DVD back in the day.
So these would be backgrounds for things like money falling, or like some kind of like grid moving with some kind of like
we just need some generic sort of motion background to add a little bit of something to the mix. So look, they were good, and they were not cheap, but they weren't expensive. They were somewhere in between.
$250 a volume kind of.
Yeah. And look, they also did gear as well. Like they did bags and jibs and dollies and all that sort of stuff. In fact, I think we used one of their green screens for a while, and it was pretty good quality.
And they also did stock. They did stock libraries where you'd buy a big folder of like 50 DVDs with
person riding on a bike and all that sort of stuff.
Super generic. And then you'd have to go through each DVD and find. But they had super low res like browser with thumbnail size stuff, so you could go and go, this one, it'd say insert disc number 44. You'd go flip through the wallet, disc number 44.
You're bringing back memories, Chris. I remember all that.
Oh my God, let's not say how old we are.
Find this disc and All right, so look, Digital Juice have recently changed. They used to be this company that we just discussed that had all these DVDs you could buy, and then they've sort of moved into the realm of the download world, and they've rebranded themselves as sort of the Netflix for creative content. So what does that mean? Well, essentially it means that you can pay a fee and have access to everything. It's an all-you-can-eat sort of thing, which some stock services offer and some don't. I was one of the founding members. So when they first started this, they said, look, this is a beta, but we're trying to move the business in this direction. I thought, okay, look, I've liked some of your stuff in the past.
Is this still available?
I'll give it a go. Yes, which is actually a worry. Whenever a founding sort of membership goes on for more than a year, I start to think, well, maybe something's a little bit wrong. And the other thing that makes me worry is they are now offering, when I did it, a sort of a fee, and then they said, oh, you can upgrade your membership so you don't have to pay monthly. Here's another fee. And now they're offering, pay $500 for a lifetime.
Wow, lifetime. That's like Fruity Loops.
Yeah, except what happens in 10 years? Where's their revenue stream if everyone does that? So, look, there are a few things that make me a little bit nervous about their business plan. But in terms of the content itself, I've sort of struggled a bit, Chris, to correctly identify what I truly think of it. And then I saw, what was it called? It was Dashcam Videos 2 or something on some station late at night the other night. And I thought, this is sort of the perfect indicator as to the level of stuff coming out of Digital Juice. And I don't necessarily mean that as a bad thing. It's this stuff that it's non-offensive, it's not edgy, it's not new, it's not hip, but it looks fine. It's not going to offend anyone. No one's going to go, oh, look, that's horrible.
So what do you find on there? What kind of stuff are you finding?
So in terms of the content, you've got fonts, you've got stock video, you've got a lot of After Effects templates, you've got music, you've got sound effects, you've got the full gamut really, apart from maybe stock photography. There's a little bit there, but you definitely wouldn't go to them for stock photography.
Would I go for them for a bunch of vets looking over animals in a training situation?
No, you would not.
Damn, that's a bit too specific. That's not B-roll.
That's not B-roll. They wouldn't have that. Look, what they're good at is After Effects templates,
Yep.
I think, and motion backgrounds. So if you go, look, I want an awards ceremony, doing a corporate awards ceremony, I just need something that looks, sparkly and fantastic. Show me what you got. You go there and they'll give you a set, and there'll be 16 or 8 or whatever different versions of a particular style.
With sound and everything?
Yeah, well, potentially. You'll go in there and you'll stick in your own bits of text and render it out, and the client will be happy and it'll look okay. And I think that's really where they are. They're fantastic for those sort of corporate gigs, maybe church videos, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think I'll be subscribed for that much longer because it's just not up to the standard that I really want in the work that I'm doing. It's just not there. Again, it's non-offensive. It's the vanilla ice cream of stock.
Yeah.
And they do things really, really well, but it looks like stock.
Yeah. And that's the trick, is trying to get shots that don't look like stock. And it's so tricky because, when you're sitting with someone and they just quote something that's from another video. They go, well, I want something that looks like this. And they'll link you to a YouTube video and you'll just be looking at this piece of footage, which is specifically shot by a really professional bunch of people on a high-end camera, and he's like,
yeah.
And you're watching a jib arm move with like a camera that's pulling a depth of field and doing something. You're like,
that shot costs $70,000. But yeah. Look, Digital Juice, it's an interesting one. The thing that probably tops it off for me is that it's not a website; it's an app.
Wow.
And look, Digital Juice always had an app, or at least they've had an app for a long time. They've called it the Juicer, and the Juicer has been this thing which basically takes their proprietary, I imagine, files and outputs it, transcodes it, or does uncompresses it and encodes it, whatever you want to say. So you can go, okay, here's some stock explosions. I want to export it as a QuickTime ProRes 444 with the transparency as a separate file, and it gives you all that power, which is really good. Or I want it as a series of JPEGs or whatever. So the transcode options, I guess, are pretty good, but a couple of things in their new version, it's not multi-threaded, which may not sound like a big issue, but when you're sitting there waiting and you're seeing your CPU using one core, it's bloody frustrating.
Wow, that's an oversight. What, even for encoding?
Yeah, and the other thing, it's not even encoding. The more frustrating thing is when you're downloading. So it is all you can eat. So you go in there and you go, oh, there's 16 different videos in here. I want to grab them all. I'm sorry, you can only queue up 8 at a time. Okay, all right, I'll load up 8 and I'll start downloading. And the thing that I've found, I'm on a reasonable internet connection, is my downloads often finish before each of the finalization, as they're called, things happen. So once it downloads, it sort of does this processing to get the file ready. And I'll have a queue of 8 videos and I'll be held up by the fact that they're still doing this finalization process. And I can't add more things to the queue until it's finished the finalization process. And I look at my CPU and one core is being used and nothing else.
Wow.
So that might sound like a really esoteric gripe, but it is something that really slows you down in terms of a workflow. So that's a problem with it. The other thing is that the interface is slow as shit, basically. So they have this interface, which I guess does kind of look a bit like Netflix. You go through and you see all these nice thumbnails of previews of the different bits of stock, and they all look pretty. But the scrolling is shithouse, basically. Like, it's slow, and it's this sort of thing where you're trying to drive a 3,000 horsepower car. You can either touch the throttle a tiny bit and not much happens, or you touch it a little bit more and then suddenly you've been shot across the road into a tree. So the scrolling is just sluggish and awful. And it seems like a little thing, but it drives you nuts when you're trying to look through content. So
getting an interface right with a stock library is so important. I mean, this is like today I was using a stock library called Dreamstime. And the great thing about that is that it's just a page. I mean, it's images, not video, but it's just pages worth of thumbnails. And it's just so simple, so quick. And you can give a client a guest login and you just say, all right, use this password, off you go. All right, and then just hit lightbox on everything that you like. Yep. And it just appears on your thing, and you're like, okay, let's go. I think even VideoBlocks allows you to do a client.
Yes, they can't do that with Digital Juice.
I can't remember if it does. One of them does it, but that's really important. So be able to if you're collaborating. Sorry, I'm calling people clients here, but I mean it refers to anything which you're working on where you're collaborating with a bunch of people, which is pretty much everything with video. can you actually give the people you're collaborating with the ability to be able to look at everything and make their decisions? This is what happens with stock traditionally, is that you put something in and they go, oh, look, it's not perfect. I don't know. Like, what else is there? And you go, well, the easiest thing to do is to say, well, you have a look. And you send them to the site and they look and they go,
yeah, that's the best one.
That's the best one.
Or you go, this one here, I think this one's better, but this one is $600 and the other one you're looking at is $33. Which one would you like?
And that's the thing, is the price difference on all of them. I mean, there are different options. I mean, I actually wrote down some prices to talk. Typically, I find there's some really lovely stuff on Shutterstock, for instance, or iStock, or Shutterstock especially. I mean, I've used a whole load of stuff, but what you tend to do is, you'll use one of these cheaper services to put your super generic shots in if you need them. And then there'll be something killer that is like we had shots of a damn wall for a job I was working on. And there was a shot of flying over like a power station with the plumes of environmental pollution coming out of the top. So it was such a beautiful shot. And the client was like, oh, that's just, it's what I want. So for me, for that, I was able to buy that. This is the problem. They charge credits in inverted commas. Everything is a credit.
Yeah.
What the hell is a credit? Yeah. What is this, your own freaking currency? And they do that because they don't want to have different prices from different units all over the world. So they kind of charge you whatever your country is for credits, and you pay for that. It worked out to be about 18 credits, which is for iStock for a shot, and it's $10 a credit. That's $180 a shot. And I was looking at a whole lot of shots the other day in iStock, and they're all about $180.
Yep.
And, this is the point where, okay, if you've got 6 shots or so, then it's cheaper for you to go out and shoot it yourself, and at least you've got your own options. It depends what they are.
And
it depends
also
what they are.
But not exclusively licensed.
And this is the other thing. What is the license? So, the license is you get to use it and you get to, put it in your production, but everybody else does as well.
Yep.
And, you sort of explain that to a client. And the problem is I've had clients who've come out and seen stock imagery in other things and gone, I was watching this show the other night and I noticed it's the same shot we use. You're like, yeah, it was probably because it was the best one up there. Yeah. But we paid, $180 for that shot. Shutterstock again is about $110 a clip. So you might ask, why are we going to spend $110 a clip when for $100 or $120 a year, you can get access to something like VideoBlocks? But it is those killer shots that are really good.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've just got to pay for the money. And this is where, if you get the more specific it is, like if I want a video clip of the Melbourne, horse racing, something or other, like Melbourne Cup, blah, 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 of something, and you'll find a shot from a site and you'll be like, I found it. And it's $500-$600 a shot. It's someone who
I wanted a shot of an anonymous baby hand on the edge of a cot. Yeah, $600. Yes. There you go. So,
but it was the perfect shot.
It was
the
perfect shot.
And if you were to set that up and play around, it would take a day, and having to organise a baby and a parents and things and lighting the rest of it.
So babies in the
so it's one of those things. Again, it gets even harder. I mean, and this isn't really stock, I guess, so much as licensed shots. Just to open the world of this up to people out there who have never come across this. I worked on a documentary a few years ago that was about the 1956 Olympics. And in particular, there was some really iconic imagery in there and some things that had gone down. And for us to track down some of the stuff was so hard in those images, because even the newspapers and things never actually, they just reprinted stuff. We eventually tracked down the original, negative, or it was a positive. It was actually shot on slide film on a medium format camera. We were really lucky. But it was sitting in an envelope in some archive facility somewhere in Massachusetts, and we managed to find it and get it and rescan it and retouch it, and then we had the best quality version of the photo that was ever captured. But that journey is so damn hard. If you want specific stuff, trying to track it down to its original source, the problem is, especially on a documentary or something, is people and directors and people you're working with tend to actually say, well, I like this shot. Can we just use this as a placeholder?
Yeah.
Placeholders are dangerous.
Bad. Yeah.
They're not bad. They're good because it shows the vision, but then
they're bad because
you've got to match it up, and you can do some color stuff and things to match color. That's not a problem. But to get the same shot, I mean, and you've got people dropping stuff in from movies and we had a whole load of other documentaries that stolen stuff from, well, not stolen, but taken it from for the, what we call offline in inverted commas, the version that we were using to get the concept down. And then it was down to me and Beck. I forget Beck's last name, but she's this amazing stock library a woman who just goes and knows all of the stock library sources, like from ABC and NBA and who are the guys in America, NBC and CNN. She's got contacts with all over the world and everyone. And it was like, oh, well, we think it's from this documentary. And then you've got to specify the time code, and then they'll send you a approximate placeholder file. But you spend thousands and thousands of dollars and the time just to track this down. And then you might have got an original dub. You're like, oh, it's about 21 minutes and 30 seconds into the show, but your dub, your version of the show has been cut down and sliced and edited by whoever captured it off a TV and then, put it up on YouTube or whatever, which is where your directors captured it and take it. And I cannot describe how hard it is to try to find that original source material from programming material that's already out there. So stock library stuff is really handy on the front, that it's just there with a preview. You can see it. I want it. Yes, go. And then you've got it.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's just a little bit of a story on the end of there, just to sort of say how hard it is to source stock footage from historical events. You would think that people would love and look after footage from the ages, but you'd be surprised how much of it's been thrown out and just dumpstered. Hopefully that'll change a little bit going into the future, because we are seeing services like Getty Image and the guys actually capturing events and putting it in there for stock libraries. And you think, oh, why are these specific events all coming up as stock footage? But, gee, I tell you what, super useful.
Going back to our picks, I guess, of this week, would you recommend VideoBlocks?
For $150 a year, there's going to be at least that much value in some clips it'll get you by. If not, just so your person you work, even just as placeholder stuff. But, I mean, it's okay. There's some real generic stuff. You'll need to change the frame rates and stuff around, but there is some generic stuff that's good.
Okay, look, with Digital Juice, as I said earlier, I don't think I'm going to keep it. I think there are possibly other services out there, and I don't use it enough, to be honest. Also, the other thing I didn't mention earlier is the app crashes a lot, which it drives you nuts. You're downloading, you walk away, you're waiting for 3 gigs to download, you come back and nothing's happened because it crashed. So if I was doing that sort of stuff all the time, I think Digital Juice would totally be worth it. If you were doing corporate event after corporate event, and they're all sort of award ceremonies.
What about a What about a documentary, or what about a short films, or what about
No.
See, Digital Juice, I would say there's going to be, not Digital Juice, sorry, the VideoBlocks, I would say there's some stuff in there that's going to be handy.
Well, I think Digital Juice is a little bit different focus. It's not they do have stock footage, but it's not so much a focus on stock footage. Their expertise, I guess, is in the After Effects templates and also the composited elements, so explosions and glass shatters and all those sort of things that you see all the time. So maybe for composited elements, short films, it might be useful. But otherwise, I think it's award ceremonies and lower end TV and that sort of thing that it's going to be most suited for. They do have some music. We used it, Chris, many years ago on a project. They had some good alternative music, which I thought was quite excellent, really, for what we paid for it. But the music these days just sounds so generic, and there are much better options out there.
You get what you pay for, I think. I mean, VideoBlocks, maybe you get the odd bit of bonus material, which is good, but still, if you really want, I think even with services like Audio Jungle, if we're talking about music, and in the Envato service, I mean, there's some good stuff up there as well. I mean, but often you'll find do yourself a favor one day and jump into a proper stock library and check out, like Beatbox or there's one we're using recently, and it's just there's some stuff you find, and it's like, oh, okay, this is good. And it might be $110 a track, but think about your time and your effort to how much it would be to get a musician to record and lay it down, even just getting them in the studio and covering studio costs and things like, there's some great, really high quality stuff where you're like, wow, this is right up there.
And my go-to has been the Music Bed, and I use one of their tracks as my demo reel track, and I think that they're good. But the music is actual, as I like to call it, real music. It's the sort of stuff you could buy in a store or download on iTunes if you paid for it. And there is a big difference between that and just the sort of generic, cheesy, corporate synthy stuff that you might get on some of these lesser priced stock websites. So as you say, Chris, you get what you pay for, definitely with music.
And the biggest thing is, what are the license terms? You really need something where you can hand it over to your client or hand it over or finish it as yourself and not have to worry about, if it's going to go on TV or if it gets a screening at a festival, or if then somebody takes it up, you get an offer that you want to put it on, a special service linked to something. You don't want to have to worry about paying for it again or having to tell them, well, look, you're going to have to report back to these people and do this with music. Usually there's leeway for that to happen. I mean, there's nothing wrong with filling out a proper APRA form and everything and having those people credited and paid for. But the best thing is if you don't have to worry about licensing. Yeah. Licensing gets so complicated.
I think most of the companies are realising that, and they're a lot more laid back. In fact, I read a company's FAQ the other day and burst out laughing because they were so laid back about all that sort of stuff. However, for the most part, any new company is going to give you a pretty broad license, and they're going to give it to you in reasonably clear language if you're not going to be covered. And broadcast is generally the big one. Most stock companies will give you the whole streaming license these days, no problems. So whack it up on Vimeo or YouTube. It's as soon as you get to broadcast, it can sometimes be a bit of an issue. But most of them will cover you for the sort of stuff we're generally doing in terms of the high end of low end production. Sometimes we're jumping into broadcast, but
the price difference is kind of like $30 versus about 140 or so 100. So it does go up significantly, but it's nothing you can't manage. You've just really got to just keep a spreadsheet of what you've used. I know that sounds boring, but it's always worth, with any project, just saying stock elements and having a list.
Now, look, some people might be not necessarily at the higher end of low-end media production. They might be at the low end of low-end media production and can't afford music. So for those people, there are a couple of things out there that I've suggested in the past, especially for students. So the Free Music Archive, FMA.
I've got stuff on that.
Yep. Okay. Well, there you go. There's someone called DJ Lang, and all my students ask me if I'm DJ Lang. But no, despite having the same name, I'm not DJ Lang. Anyway, look, that's a good starting point. A lot of stuff up there is Creative Commons. For those unfamiliar with Creative Commons, it's a license that people can use to distribute their work with some conditions. Things like it can't be used for commercial purposes, or it needs to be credited with the original artist. So it's a way to sort of give you your stuff away for free, but still have some control over it and some integrity and some credit, I suppose, when people use your work. So a lot of that stuff is Creative Commons, but it's a good starting point for those who can't afford to pay for music. There's definitely some crap on there, but there's also these days a lot of good music up there as well. So if you can afford the time, and that's really the big thing a lot of the time these days between paid stuff and free stuff, is how long you're willing to invest in just sitting there and listening to tracks. If you can invest the time, FMA is a good place to start, I think.
No, Free Music Archive, the people who run it are really cool too. I've actually met some of them.
Right. Well, look, the other one is interesting, and that is the YouTube audio library. Have you ever looked at that, Chris?
Oh, yeah, the one that comes with it, yeah.
Well, so
it's YouTube have already pre-licensed a whole load of tracks you can use.
There's royalty-free stuff in there, and that's what it traditionally was just tracks you could download for free. And look, they were pretty generic, but they're okay if you just needed something in the background.
As long as you use it on YouTube, it's okay.
Well, this is interesting, Chris. I have gone through their license, and I have gone through their license with lawyers in the room, and it doesn't actually sort of stipulate that anywhere, that it has to be on YouTube.
Ah.
So you need a YouTube account to access the YouTube music library, but there is nothing in the license that I or the lawyers I've spoken to have found that says you actually have to upload it to YouTube.
Ah.
But anyway, that's just a bit of an aside. So the YouTube audio library, they have some sound effects, again, very generic sort of ones, car tires screeching and ducks quacking, that sort of thing. But they have some music, which if you just want to whack something in the background, some of it's actually okay. But interestingly enough, they've also added a bit of Creative Commons stuff now. Again, you need to attribute it properly, but they're sort of bringing that into the mix. And Vimeo have their own version of this where they have free tracks, Creative Commons tracks, and even some cheap tracks as well, so like $2 for a use case. So if you don't have a lot of money, those are three places, the YouTube Audio Library, FMA, and the Vimeo Music Store, that you can maybe start out and get some stuff that's reasonable in terms of quality, not amazing, but reasonable, without spending a whole lot of money.
Yeah. Otherwise, just talk to your local bands and your friends and people and You'll be surprised that people will, if you give them something a little bit in return, maybe offer to make them a music clip or something like that. I mean, you can do some great barter trades. And
give them something in return. Don't just say you'll get exposure. There's nothing worse from a musician than, oh, wow, I'll get 30 YouTube hits. That's not exposure. Give them something a little bit more.
Give them something back, and they'll, or even just like something like go into a jam or offer to cover a gig. That's...
Or a 6-pack of beer. You'll be surprised what struggling musicians will do.
Yeah, beer's a really good bargaining token.
Talking
of which, let's end this show. What have we got?
We today have the Atomic Pale Ale from Gage Roads Brewing Co.
Yeah, I've already been through a 6-pack of this at a party a couple of weeks ago, so I'm quite familiar with it. I love this beer.
Look, the reason I picked this one up, Chris, is because I've had their mid-strength beer. And as you know, light beers suck, and mid-strength beers generally suck as well.
But it's quite a hoppy mid-strength as far as I understand.
Yeah,
and so it sort of has
Gage Roads, I think, is the best lower alcohol beer that I've had. So I thought we'll give this one a go. And as you say, you've had it before.
Nice hoppy edge. It's got a sort of a sour sort of side to it that I quite like.
Look, to be completely honest, it's nothing amazing. It's just a good quality beer, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I really agree with you. It's the Atomic Pale Ale. It's green and
yellow.
Yellow logo. I mean, it's of course Western Australian. We do tend to talk about a lot of Australian beers on this show because
we make reasonable beer.
And that's what's stocked. We will try to get onto some more international flavors in the future. But
this is brewed by Fussy Bastards, according to the back of the label.
Well, the front says the Gage Roads Brewing Company. So dry, hopped and unfiltered. Yeah, I'd give it that. It's clean.
Again, it's not amazing. It's nothing particularly different. It's the sort of beer that you totally drink every day of the week. Would you seek it out though?
Look, I'd probably, if I was going for something that's hoppy and quite out there, I'd probably go for something that's a bit more IPA orientated and has a little bit more edge to it. But look, I would happily drink that.
You'd see it on the shelf at a small bottle though. You'd have a whole lot of options. You go, yeah, I've had that before.
Is it a reasonable price?
I'll check my watch.
Yeah, because you used tap and pay, didn't you?
$19.
There we go.
So that's right. For a 6-pack. Not too bad. Not too expensive in the scheme of things.
For Australia. But then again, anyone listening internationally,
these are micro breweries.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not mainstream Fosters. We don't drink Fosters for those of you overseas.
No, we don't even really know what it is. Yeah. It's like something that was around in the 80s that disappeared.
In a blue can.
Yeah, with U-Matic.
And Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, no, he works in this building. There's a poster of him right there. I'm looking at him right now.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I enjoyed your movies, apart from the third one, which was rubbish. You should have stopped at number 2.